We are in Zimbabwe right now. 70% of Zimbabwe's economy is agricultural based. 70%. It has the largest workforce in the country. It's actually the sector that really is improving livelihoods. If you look at where we've come from in Zimbabwe going forward, we're now producing, this year we produce over 2.5 million tons of maize. We only need about 1.8. We have someone later who will be able to verify all these numbers. And of course, think about it. We use agriculture products for soaps, for paints, for cooking oil, yeah, for our staple diet. So it is such a huge part of our economy that the government of Zimbabwe has put in place really, really good policies or policies going forward to try and ensure we have food security. We have issues such as rainproofing, waterproofing, because of course one of the issues we have here is drought. If you look at last year, we had a serious drought, so we need to try and stabilize our water supply so we have continuous production throughout all the years. Instead of having great production this year, next year there's a drought and suddenly we're down again and we have to import. But at the same time, we also have some issues in Zimbabwe. We import, guys, the biggest food we eat in Zimbabwe is rice. We don't make rice. So we import $80 million worth of rice every month. Can you believe this? Okay, so our traditional foods, our traditional grains, our traditional mealie meal, sadza as we call it here, I hope some of you have tried it. A lot of people are stopping, particularly the youth, are now eating rice and potatoes. Okay, so these are some of the issues I wanted to set the scene if I can. But I don't need to set the scene for you, because what I would like us to do is to call upon a guest who's been with us throughout the whole conference, who'll be able to give us more insight into exactly what's happening in Zimbabwe in terms of agricultural policy, in terms of the interrelationship between Zimbabwe and SADC, which is critical, and how Zimbabwe is what they're actually doing in terms of some of the things we've been talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a very big, warm round of applause for our next guest. He's the Deputy Director of Strategic Planning, MEL, in Zimbabwe's Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water, and Rural Development. It's the largest ministry in the country. Big round of applause, Thabani Siziba. Remember, keep clapping, he's coming. Keep going, it's a long way up, Thabani, welcome, sir. Right, come, grab a seat. We'll sit in the middle ones. Now, you may be interested to know, and I think it is something that we should also consider, in that we could be sitting here and we could be coming up with some issues and so forth, but we also have to appreciate that some of the governments in Africa are already starting to do things, and we may not even know what they are doing. And I think that could be one of the things that we need to find out, in that a lot of countries may be further ahead than others in some of the things that they do. And I think Zimbabwe, to be frank, is in some areas very far ahead. Now, when you talk data, this is an interesting one, and we were talking about this last night, Thabani. You can imagine how much data Zimbabwe has. Going back, I don't even know, 50 or 70, 80 years, yeah, way even before our independence. So the data is sitting with his ministry. So we're going to go through some of the issues we talked about. And the first thing we're going to talk about, Thabani, is national policy development. I think that's critical in terms of our agricultural future and the farmers and raising their livelihood. So what kind of policy development regarding agricultural data has Zimbabwe undertaken recently or is currently in the process of doing?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for giving the government an opportunity to come lay out its policy position in terms of data governance in Zimbabwe, and specifically for the agriculture sector. So the national policy framework from national level through the NDS2 emphasizes on data-driven governance or evidence-based policy decision making. This is what we are driving from a national level. And for within the agriculture sector, we've got our anchor strategy, the agricultural food systems and rural transformation strategy, which actually focuses or places data as a key pillar for driving transformation within the agriculture sector. So what we've done most is we've developed an agriculture information management system plan, which basically coordinates all the different isolated management systems We've got our crops management systems, our livestock management systems, our rural wash management systems. So this AIMS plan coordinates and integrates all these into one so that they can speak to each other. So that's what we are doing at policy level.
Now,
Yes.
one other thing as well, which I think it would be nice for the room to know, is extension workers. I mean, you have thousands of extension workers. Maybe talk about how many you have, and in essence, what do they do?
Okay, so right now as a country, we've got about 6,000 extension workers, about 4,800 are crops as extension workers, then the other 1,200 are livestock specialists or on the livestock side of extension. So our extension workers, we took a policy position. They are no longer called extension workers. We are calling them agricultural business advisors because their role or their mandate has been expanded not only to give agricultural advisory, but also to go on to actually institutionalize the agriculture is a business mindset or framework within farmers, and also provide real market intelligence for farmers so that we can adopt the market-led production within our agriculture sector. And just lastly, just to mention that even within our extension system, we, the government, for 2 years ago, embarked on a massive digitalization drive where our extension workers or the extension service providers within government were equipped with Starlink, were equipped with tablets, were equipped with PH gadgets so that they can offer real-time extension advice to our farmers.
Now, Tabani mentioned something called NDS2. It's called the National Development Strategy 2. It runs from 2026 to 2030. We had NDS1, which ran up to end of last year. The reason I mention this is that in that document, there is literally a pillar on agriculture. It's one of the key issues in there. And in there, it really highlights what government strategy is and some of the things we've been talking about. So for all of you, I have a copy of it. You can go and download it online. You'll be able to actually see literally what government's policy has been set by the president of Zimbabwe and his cabinet on what Zimbabwe wants to do there. That's a true statement.
Yes.
Right, let's move to strategic initiatives for farmers. I think it's important because, again, you did stress that at the end of the day, this is all about farmers. It's all about increasing food security, all about increasing their livelihoods, etc. So what strategic data-driven initiatives are you rolling out that directly serve farmers in Zimbabwe? But I also believe that Zimbabwe is very much part of the regional SADC initiative. So that also plays a role in agricultural planning. Talk to me about those two issues.
Okay, so our position as government is that the farmer is both a contributor and end user of data. So they play a critical dual role in terms of data usage in Zimbabwe. So what we have done as a ministry, we've introduced what we call the livelihoods tracker. This livelihoods tracker actually tracks or monitors the initiatives that government is intervening within the agriculture sector. So this goes down to household level. We are looking at the productivity of that household, the income of that household, and this will actually be a part of the resilience measure, how we measure resilience in our government interventions as we move to Vision 2030. As you know, we are targeting to become an upper middle income economy by then, and agriculture should be a key driver. So this livelihoods tracker is actually, we put it in place as a robust monitoring system to check or to track the impacts of our interventions. Then moving on to a regional level, I think Zimbabwe is an active player within the SADC regional community, and also is part of the SADC regional aims, that's the Agriculture Information Management System at regional level. And we have been participating in the population of regional data, which will enable us not only to track the availability in terms of crops, livestock, also to track disease surveillances from both a plant and livestock perspectives. As you all know, we are right now currently facing an FMD crisis within the region. So it's the AIM system envisages us to be able to actually monitor and screen all this. So we are very active in terms of participating at a regional level, and annually we convene as SADC member states to actually populate the ENGS database for the region.
I think it's important to note that a couple of years ago, Zimbabwe embarked on what we call Fumvudza. Fumvudza is government giving free seed and fertilizer to rural farmers with the idea of them boosting production. First it was around food security, then it was the idea would be then the additional food you grew you could then sell and then obviously economically grow. It's a huge part of our budget, and one of the things I think which I know the Minister of Agriculture and the PS Permanent Secretary there is trying to get private sector into that as well, looking at the benefits to private sector. And is that playing out? Because obviously the government can't keep on every year giving budgets out. You're hoping to get all players involved to try and produce and increase production?
Thank you very much. So I'll allude to the point that I mentioned, that when we introduced the livelihoods checker, this one is very important for our Fumvudza program because it will measure the impact of our beneficiaries. Eventually, our beneficiaries need to graduate. We can't keep on supplying the very same beneficiaries. So that is the foresight that our principals within the ministry came up with in terms of having this livelihoods checker, so that we can eventually graduate all the beneficiaries that are benefiting from Fumvudza into our service.
Let's talk about, we did touch briefly on regional SADC initiatives, but how about issues such as shared registries, agricultural information management systems, the things we've been talking about here? Where is Zimbabwe? Have you put in place domestically some of these issues like shared registries and national database and so forth, or you know, so you can participate in SADC or even improve our agricultural monitoring and reaction to things? So it's obviously timely reaction is critical. What are we doing in that regard?
Okay, thank you for that question. So what is happening in terms of our progress? We've set up a roadmap and steps that we need to achieve for us to get at a level that we can now openly share our agricultural database with other SADC regional countries. So what's very critical first is in terms of the capacity building for our National Statistics Agency. As you know, all forms of data are mandated to our National Statistics Agency, that's ZimStat. They are the ones who actually lead in the space. However, what is more important is that we need to train in terms of standardization and harmonization of data, so that these can speak to each other, so that a definition of a farmer in Zimbabwe is uniform to a definition of a farmer in Zambia, in South Africa, in Angola, and so that harmonization and standardization of data standards is very critical. And this is where we are as a country, where we've been through the SADC AIMS project. We've been training sessions have been taking place in terms of harmonization and of standardization of data systems.
So already you're well advanced in terms of Zimbabwe putting in standardization, interoperability. I think that's critical as well.
Yes.
So all of that the ministry is working on.
Yes.
I will also add that we do have a data protection law. It only came out, was it last year or the year before? A very strong data protection law, which also talks to that data protection in terms of what we had also been talking about. Any final words in terms of what you've been in the conference of the last couple of days? Any final words to sort of emphasize how Zimbabwe, I suppose, is on the right track with some of the thoughts happening in the summit?
Okay, the first thought is that Agile Data and DPI are very critical for the transformation of our agriculture sector, because if we don't have that reliable Agile data, we continue making the wrong decisions. So data is a very foundation of evidence-based policy making. So as we as Zimbabwe are actually moving in the same direction of improving our data systems, of establishing robust and agile data systems, we are in cognizance of that fact that our data has to be robust, not only for our farmers who rely on this data, but also different actors within the value chain. We've got our marketers, we've got our processors, so everyone needs this reliable data for them to operate and actually to be very sustainable within the sector or within the value chain. So it's a very important thing, and I think the outcomes of this conference, especially for Zimbabwe, will help us chart a course, especially in the agriculture sector, in how we create data, we develop robust data systems, and how we use this data for the development of the sector. So I think that's a very important takeaway.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think what is important, of course, is to understand that each country, possibly, maybe even each region, may be more advanced or less advanced than you believe. So one of the things, I suppose, is to understand what is happening in the country. And I think Tabani's given us a good idea of what's happening in Zimbabwe. I'm not sure what's happening in Malawi and Zambia. They could be ahead of some of the things. They could be behind on some of the things. But I think that is one issue to look at, is where are the different countries or regions at already? And then that allows us to then formulate plans and strategies that speak to that. Ladies and gentlemen, Tabani Siziba from the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development. Please, a big round of applause.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, my brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming. Really do. All right. Please keep on going, guys. Thank you, Tabani. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, that was enlightening. For those of you who didn't know what's happening in Zimbabwe's agricultural network and systems, there it is. Yeah, it's really great. But obviously, as we know, and talking to the minister, there's a lot more to do, and I believe that this conference, Agile Data DPI, can help Zimbabwe agriculture achieve that. Thank you. Mark? Caroline? Please clap for me, no? Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. The last final piece that we'd like to do together before we come to the closing is to try to see, okay, to go back to the different communities, or at least institutions that you're representing. So you've seen on each table, you've got new names, and you have development partners, which are subdivided in funders, I think multilateral organization, bilateral organization. So we're gonna invite you, if you are part of this group, to move to this table. We also have private sector representatives, so we're going to ask you to go to this table. We have farmer and civil society representative, so we'd like you to be together in the table. Am I missing a group? Researcher, definitely, researcher. I think we have a group there, so please. Policymakers, yes. So you can now take your things and just go to this table. We'd like to have a conversation now with this angle. As a group of donor, a group of researcher, what do I need from the other representative? So find your place, and I'm going to explain a little bit more.
Right, so guys, we'll put 3 tables for development partners, because there's a lot of you. So split up into 3 tables, equal tables, please. We have 2 tables for researchers. So please, can you find the research table and sit on that?
So where should like an NGO go?
Hang on, I'm getting there. 1 for private sector, 1 table for private sector, 1 for policy makers, and 1 to put the farmers and CSOs together.
So which one?
Yeah, go in that group. The farmers, CSOs, NGOs. Which one would you? What's up to you? Where would you like to find? Where would you like to put yourself?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
There's only about 3 or 4.
Because it's like an implementer, right?
Yeah. Okay. So 3 development partners. It's a good question, Mark.